and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and thrilled that you're here because we're leveling up just as we do every week. So thank you for tuning in. We have an epic guest that I had the pleasure of hearing speak at the Own Your Worth event that I was at a couple months ago. And she was phenomenal. She started talking and Justin and I both leaned over. We're like, she's a badass. And we were just so moved by the short keynote that we got to hear. Too short. Unfortunately, I would love to hear more, which is what we're going to do today. Because right afterward, I hit her up and said, please do my show. And so, because so much about what you talk about is aligned. So let me please introduce you today to Josselyne Herman-Saccio. Josselyne is a master coach. Let me take a deep breath here because there's a lot on this list. Josselyne, you are a master coach, an author, a keynote speaker, TV and film producer, former pop star in the band Boy Crazy, which was in the 90s and had a huge hit. And I totally watched the video and listened to that today and remembered it. You're a community activist, a New Yorker, a wife, a mother of 3. You've been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the New Yorker, Bloomberg Businessweek, Fast Company, Billboard, ABC, Fox, UNICEF, NBC, CBS, and more. You have 35 years experience doing what you do, coaching clients. And you have coined the term unmessable-with. Did I miss anything? I'm sure I missed things. There's probably more.
I said, how old am I? Am I like Methuselah or something? Like that is, hard to hear that.
You packed a lot in.
One intro. It's like over a whole life, but then you hear it all in a paragraph and it's kind of intense. Yes.
That's right. When you subtract the decades, you're like, holy crap. Well, you have done a lot and you're all about empowering people to make their dreams come true and be unmessable with.
I know it's one of those
getting those
words,
backwards,
right?
It's one of those unmessable with, no matter what life throws at them. And to me, it just translates to, not being reactive, right? Challenges don't dictate your life. So let me first start. Let's clarify how you got unmessable with and how that became your message.
Well,
and welcome.
It all began when I was messable with, honestly. And that was when I was 5 years old. I really wanted to be a singer. That was my dream. I would sing to anybody who would listen to me. And then my father and I were sitting in our convertible car, and he had been a painter. In fact, he painted the painting behind me if we're on video.
Wow, yeah.
And he's an amazing artist, but he had stopped painting. And I noticed as a 5-year-old that he wasn't painting as often. So I said to him, how come you stopped painting? And he said, very matter of fact, you can't do your art as your career. And then it's not really that he said that to me. It's not like, oh, my mean father. No. I said it to myself in that moment. You know what I mean? Like in that moment, I said, oh, you can't do your art as your career, so you're not going to be a singer. So now you better figure out how to be a business person or a lawyer or something, right? And it wasn't like this big, horrible moment. It just became like the truth. When your parents say something to you, it's kind of like,
that's that.
Exactly. That's that. And that was it in terms of the lid came down on my dream. So I stopped dreaming of being a singer and I started doing, whatever I did in high school and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up being a producer at a very, very young age. At 18, I was producing television shows, commercials. I was running a company. I mean, I was actually really effective and successful at making money. And, and I was clear I was not going to be a starving artist because you can't do your art as your career. So then I'm in this transformative workshop.
Where'd you grow up? Where did you grow up?
New York.
Okay. So you were in New York. Perfect place for it. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Didn't mean to
and my parents were very encouraging. They were like, you should sing. So I didn't have the parents who were like, no, that's silly. They wanted me to do that, but I was like, no, you can't do it as your career, blah, blah, blah. Like I knew what I was talking about. And then when I was in my very early 20s, I was in a transformative workshop where, in transformation, you see blind spots, you see things that you think are true that aren't, and things start to open up for you. And I saw in that workshop that what I had believed about you can't do your art as your career, like maybe that's not the truth. Like, what if that isn't true? What if that's a decision I made in the infinite wisdom of 5 and just started gathering evidence for that was the truth? So I built a case for it over the 15 years, and it loosened its grip on me. And then within 3 weeks, I had a record deal. Amy, I kid you not. 3
What?
weeks. I know it's insane. It's like magic, but it is like magic because once you disappear a constraint, like a limiting belief, you're free to take all sorts of actions that you didn't even see before. And that's what I did. I just got into, I mean, I'm an action person. I mean, I was running a company at 18. So obviously I know how to take actions and produce results. And all of a sudden, since it was
Wow.
no longer impossible, I was just taking actions. I was introducing myself to people as a singer. I was, I recorded my demo that I had been postponing forever. Someday I'll do a demo. I scheduled a cabaret show. I mean, all these actions. And then I get a phone call from some woman who's like, we heard you're a singer. And I was like, I don't know how you heard, like, who did you talk to? Maybe the 50 people I had introduced myself to as a singer in those 3 weeks. She said, we're putting together a girl group. It's the female version of New Kids on the Block. That's how old this is. And
Nice.
I said, okay. And I ended up booking that. And then we ended up having a #1 record with that group. So my dream just completely came true so short period of time. And that's when I became on a mission to have other people live their dreams and not be stopped by whatever is stopping them, not be messed with by whatever is stopping them from taking the actions that would produce the results that would have them living the life of their dream. So being unmessable with isn't about being tough, and it isn't about like not letting things get to you. It's really about being able to stay in that space of creation and vision and act on what will fulfill your vision versus getting stuck in, as you said, reaction and survival and making things happen or forcing or, just somehow not having power to fulfill your dreams.
I would think almost that being messable with is like a requirement for becoming unmessable with. Would you say that?
Completely. It's the access. So a lot of the work that I
Yeah.
did with people go, oh, I want to be unmessable with, so everything's going to be perfect in my life. Good luck. Let me know if you find a way to have perfect circumstances, because I
Right.
haven't figured that one out in 50 some odd years. So it really is about how are you going to be in the face of the real life circumstances that come at you? Like I had shared with you about my mother having emergency surgery and now she's not eating. So how am I going to create and fulfill on my vision for my mother versus getting stuck in being upset or frustrated or angry with the doctor or whatever reaction that could be there. So the access that I work with people on is, first of all, being able to see when you are being messable with, because most people don't see it, because 99% of your life, if not more, is spent reacting to things, and especially if you're effective and you're successful, you're a good reactor. But that's a very different muscle than the muscle of creation and vision.
Well, so how do you get there? Like even it sounds like a practice too, which I'm a
Totally.
big fan of, like viewing everything as a practice, rather than the stagnant, like now I am mess
Good
with,
luck. Yes,
and
exactly. It's a mountain with no
exactly.
top. It's like, now I've brushed my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm done. No.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm unmessable with. But so it's more of a practice. So what do you do? Do you still have instances like maybe with your mom or something like that, and what's your process for calling yourself, back around or back into that
I have
that vibe?
circumstances all the time, and I coach people every day. That's what I coach them in, is
Mhm.
how to shift from reaction to creation. So the easiest way to do it is for me to do it with you if you're game.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
okay, good. So tell me something that's a dream or a vision of yours, and then we'll identify what messes with you, and we'll kind of go through the whole process. So what's your vision?
Easy. I'm
Go.
dealing with one right now.
Perfect.
I'm dealing with one right now. I've decided to start a company, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's a physical product. And I, had all these things come up messing with me just in the last couple days as I'm really doing this and starting to write a business plan. And I'm like, I don't know anything. I'm not capable. Just those very limiting beliefs of, I don't have the experience. I'm not good enough with money. I don't have money to start this. How much is this going to cost? Can I even figure that out? Does that help? Is that
It's
something?
perfect. Yeah. So this is
Great.
super, super common for people. They have a vision and then they have like limiting thoughts about themselves, like I don't know enough, I don't have the resources, all that kind of negative self-talk. I'll call that, as bundle it all into, one little category called negative self-talk, which is one of the top 10 things that messes with people, right? So the first thing is to catch yourself having those conversations. Mostly you have those conversations with yourself, not out loud to people. It's like those thoughts, right? So if you can catch yourself, the key is that before you're having those thoughts, I know it seems like it's simultaneous or after, but if you actually start to study this, which I have obviously for 35 years, you'll see it's right before you start having those thoughts, something happens physically in your body. There is like a symptom. I call it a red flag. And it's a physical thing that happens that's the indicator that you're about to go down that messable-with road. You're about to go down the road of self-doubt or negative self-talk. So if you kind of scan your body right now, and you can just look to the last couple of days when you were dealing with this situation, what is your red flag that you're going to be messable with?
I think I check out of the present moment a little bit, and I look probably, down and to the left a little, and just start. I think I look down, and I just, it's almost like I'm searching for something. And I think then I'll start like that doubt pattern.
Good. And is there anything that happens like in your body other than looking down, which I get that's something you do, but is there any like actual experience, like a tightening of your neck?
There's a retraction. I would say like a retraction, like a physical retraction in my chest, kind of like a hollowing a little bit, like a backing off, like a shrinking.
Yeah, I totally get it. By the way, my chest is where I get it too. It's like, it's like constricting, contracting, as you say. So what that would be your red flag. So what I would have you do if I were coaching you is which I kind of am right now. So I would have you be looking for.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. My pleasure. This is my job. This is what I do. I would have you be looking for the chest contraction, not the self-doubt. Because the self-doubt, by the time you're having those thoughts, you're already screwed, excuse my French. I mean, you're just like already down that road. The chest contraction you can catch because it's physical. So you can actually feel it. And it's not like something mental that you have to figure out. It's like, oh, wait a minute, there goes my chest. And that would be the first step, is to see the chest thing. So you don't even have to worry about like, well, what am I doubting? And, figuring, processing your thoughts. You don't even have to go down that road. All you have to do is see the chest contraction. And then we create a hack to reroute your brain, because what's happening in those moments, and I'm sure you'll get this right away, is your brain is in what we call an amygdala hijack. So your amygdala is like that fight, flight, freeze kind of mode of your brain. And when you're reacting, that's what's happening. You're on automatic. I like how you said you check out of the present moment. You're not even home, because you are now on autopilot. You are reacting. You are surviving whatever situation is happening. And that's how that whole fight, flight, or freeze thing comes into play. So if you can catch the physical red flag and then interrupt it physically, your brain will shift from that back part of your brain to the frontal cortex, which is where creativity happens, and you can start to create something versus react. So when you get the chest thing, I would ask you to come up with, and we can look right now together, what could be something you could try, something physical you could do that will interrupt that brain pattern. I don't want to get too like neuroscience-y with you, but it's like just interrupt you going down that road. Okay, good. Then
yeah, sure. And I understand, interrupting neural pathways and patterns and all that kind of stuff. And I love that. There's those,
me too.
Tony Robbins does a lot of that, right? And so what could I do? I could do anything. I could do a breathing exercise. I could probably do a handstand. I could do something, less dramatic, like jump up and down. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like there's
do any of those things. You could, but you've just picked something, right? So you're going to pick something. Right. Now, I pick something kind of simple, because a lot of times when this happens to me, I'm on a Zoom call, so I can't go do a handstand right then, but if I could,
right.
That would work much better than, like the subtle things. But I'll like tap my legs under the table. I'll just start like tapping my legs so that I'm actually interrupting what's happening. It's got to be something that you wouldn't normally do. So I like the standing up, jumping jacks. I like, anything that can actually move you from what would be a natural action for you. Because if it's a natural action, you'll still be in that mode of reaction. So you come up with whatever.
But if you're in a meeting, then you probably need something a little less dramatic and
Exactly.
noticeable. So
it could be
what does that
drink
look
a glass of water. You could take some water. I have a client who just goes like that. She just stretches her arms above her head. And that's
I like that.
Yeah, because that's like, people don't really notice on Zoom. They don't really care or whatever. Or, just shake your hands. You do something that's smaller of an action. If you can do the big action, go outside, take a walk. The breathing definitely helps, but sometimes you can't just close your eyes and start doing a breathing exercise, especially if you're in the middle of a conversation in the heat of the moment. So you need something that's like a Cliff Note version, right? And you can have the longer one too. The handstand I love. If I could I've never been able to do a handstand. If I could do a handstand, that would be definitely a miracle. But
so I can do it with a wall. If I have a wall nearby,
like a yoga handstand. Okay, all right. Well, still, even that, I don't think with my frozen shoulder, I'm like, I think I'll pass on the handstand. But whatever works for you, you take on practicing, which is the real word for it, catching the red flag and interrupting it with your hack. Now, that's only the first part because what that'll do is get you to neutral, which is really great. And you want to get to neutral, but neutral isn't sufficient. And this is where most people make a big mistake, okay, with mindset stuff, which I know you and I both have done a lot of work in mindset, and I've been leading transformative programs for 30 years. I mean, with hundreds of thousands of people. So I work I'm masterful with mindset, but mindset isn't enough. Because you shift your mindset, but you don't have a new place to go, you end up back in the mindset that has the muscle. And the mindset that has the muscle is the reaction. So once you get yourself to neutral, it's critical that you pre-create another road to go down. So it's like as if you have the road of being messable with and it's paved and it has, fast food restaurants and gas stations and like, it's just
it's
easy.
Comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Well-worn. Yeah.
Well-worn. Your muscle memory is going to go down that road. Oh, I know. I turn left here. That's where I go. But now you're in the middle and you don't have a right side road. So the question is, what are you going to create that will be the new road that's going to take more consciousness, more deliberate action, more discipline, because you're carving a road, you're paving that road that doesn't exist yet. Yeah. So I work with people to, create something that really inspires them. So let's just look for you. What would be something that would really be important enough to you to give up the other road? It's kind of like an addict giving up the drug. Yeah. What would be worth it?
It is. It's a lot like that. It's a lot like that, right? I mean, it's us thinking that we have to have that. The difference that it's going to make in the world, difference that it's going to make to people, the different. Because it's going to give back in a unique way, and like that lights me up.
Totally. And I can hear just in, the little that we know each other, making a difference is sort of like what I would call your dream source. That's what sources your dreams. That's what sources what you're up to in the world. You just want to make a difference. You want to make an impact. So if you have that as your go-to road, making a difference. Now, you don't have to be working in Uganda to do that. You could do that at Starbucks. You could take an action in one of those moments that would make a difference. You could clean the milk station at Starbucks, or you could, be on a Zoom call. You could make a difference with somebody by acknowledging or appreciating them for something that they said or did or contributed to you. So the opportunity is you have that as the road, and then you take an action to put you on that road. And now you've diverted from being messable with to being unmessable with. And it takes practice and it takes action, but most of all, it takes the vision to make a difference. And that's now your new kind of North Star.
Beautiful. What does that look like if you're having a conversation with someone, let's say, and it could turn into something heated and you've been triggered, and you can feel that heat rising up, say, in your body? Because I know if that was to happen to me, my neck would get hot, let's say, and I could feel that happening. So let's say I, stretch my arms, I move.
Right.
But
I'm guessing
created
space.
What?
That's the thing. So there you are having an interaction with somebody. Now, for you, I think making a difference could be a good one size fits all to practice this whole methodology. So if making a difference is sort of your mission, your vision in life, your dream source, as I would call it, then you're in this interaction with somebody that you're hooked or messable with, right? But you feel the thing, you hack it. Now, what action could you take with that person to make a difference right then?
Listen, I mean, I
Could
don't know.
be. I don't know. It's a little passive for me. I would say, like, if it were me,
Yeah.
right? I'll just give you an
Like if you're
example from,
creating, that's not what you're doing. Like if you're creating,
but I'll give you an
that's not, you're
example from
not
my
listening.
life. It's like with
Okay.
somebody who, I manage actors and I have for 25 years. And, so I have a company that does that in addition to the coaching. And I've had people break their contract with me, right? So they call me up and they say, I don't want to be in the contract anymore. Right now, that hooks me. Because first of all, we have a contract. Like, I'm like, it's not like, oh, I don't feel like doing it anymore. Then we wouldn't need a contract. It's like, I'm like, well,
Right.
kind of not how it works. So I say,
Right.
you have a sunset clause in your contract. You can exercise it, no problem. And if they go, well, I'm not going to do that, you're going to have to send a lawyer after me or whatever they say, right? Which is definitely a reactivation thing for me. I feel my chest go thing. I take a deep breath. I look up and out, which is one of my hacks. I look up and out. And I ask, okay, what am I creating here? And one of the things I create in my business is honor. That's something like a principle that I live by is honor. So I go, okay, what action is going to honor our relationship, the history we've had together, the contract, the law, all of that. And if they say, well, send to a lawyer, whatever, I'll look and I'll say, you know what? I will totally do that because I don't want to have these conversations with you. I deeply appreciate what we've created together. So I'll let the attorney deal with it and, it'll all work out.
So you find that North Star guiding value or principle, like that's the thing to get like in your mind, like that's my go-to. Once you've acknowledged like, okay, I need a physical change, you make the change, then where am I going? What can I create in that space?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I do it on the spot sometimes, but when I first work with people and they're just beginning this practice, I like you to have a pre-created thing because in the heat of the moment, you can't be like, what am I creating? Like I'm creating stabbing this person with a knife. That's what I'm creating. It's like, so that's why you have to have the pre-created space and some actions that you could possibly take in the heat of the moment. Because you know what hooks you, you know what messes with you. So if you're going into a meeting where there's a likelihood for you to get hooked, then you go in with this pre-created space ready. It's like, okay, here's my vision for my relationship with this person, or here's my vision for this situation. And you come from that space of vision.
Do you have your clients really work on honing in on what they value and what their real vision is?
Absolutely. Like I work with people, mostly founders, entrepreneurs like that, but I have people that I work with on their marriages, on their relationship with their children. And, it's like, oh my God, my husband just irritating me and blah, 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 blah. Okay, but what's your vision for your marriage? And it's always something completely different from whatever they got hooked by, right? But people are reactivated. That's what it is to be human. It's like it came with our equipment. We react to things. It's all that, reptilian brain sort of surviving life. And we are far beyond having to worry about, somebody eating us, which is where we used to have that brain. But we still act like a phone call is like a tiger coming after us or something. So I work with them to say, okay, what is your vision for your marriage? Okay, now what's an action you could take? I had a woman who had a husband, or has a husband, who had a traumatic brain injury. And he would like almost have like dementia. They would forget things. He would ask the same thing like several times, and she would just get annoyed like as a reaction. But she created a pre-created space of love. And when she would get hooked, she would get a stomach ache. That's where her red flag was. She interrupted it. She did a handshaking thing. And then she had like 3 go-to actions that she could go to with him. One is giving him a hug. One was making them a cup of tea. One was, kissing him on the cheek. I mean, just something that would express love, manifest love, and take her out of that world of being hooked. I mean, and it takes practice, but then at some point you just don't get hooked. My mother, who I was sharing with you before, 18 years ago, had a stroke, and her dementia started setting in. So now she asks me the same question probably 50 times in a day. I'll be sitting with her for a half an hour. She will ask me where my father is at least 20 times in a half an hour. So it's easy to get annoyed, but at this point, it doesn't annoy me at all. I just answer her question every time she asks it like it's the first time she's asking me, because there's nothing to be annoyed with. The only time you get annoyed is if you think something shouldn't be the way it is, or it should be different. So shoulds and shouldn'ts are another one of the top 10 hits on what messes with people. In addition to the, self-doubt and negative self-talk, shoulds and shouldn'ts are a big one. So if you can start to identify, distinguish what messes with you, and then dismantle those messable with moments, and you have this pre-created space, then what you're doing is you're living your dream right there in that moment. So if your vision is making a difference right there in the moment of being annoyed at Starbucks because somebody cut in front of you in the line, and you take an action to express your vision, you're living your dream now, not someday when you build 500 schools, or not, someday when you can retire and have millions of dollars to donate. No, it's like right now you're living your dream.
This podcast is sponsored by Wands. Wands creates luxurious pleasure practice tools that help people become more connected to their bodies. They have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, the most gorgeous crystal pleasure wands you've ever seen, free bleed blankets, and my favorites, the trademarked glass cervix wand and the Venus wand, which is their heaviest wand made of stainless steel, and their new ecstatic vibrator. This company is woman-owned and creates products designed to help you become more connected to your body and your pleasure and support the healing of pelvic pain. Get yours today in their always discreet packaging at wands.com. That's Wands with 2 A's, WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off, or enter the code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's Wands, WAANDS.com. The Amy Edwards Show is sponsored in part by Higher Dose. Higher Dose creates wellness tech for everyone with tools, supplements, and body care. And I have 15% off for you with my code MAGIC15. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, and more. I have their infrared pulsed electromagnetic field, or PEMF mat, which emits electromagnetic waves that mimic natural frequencies found in nature, stimulating and encouraging your body's natural recovery process. It also has 20 pounds of crystals in it and has shown to ease chronic pain, aid in exercise recovery and circulation, deepen your meditations, reduce stress, and improve total body relaxation. I also love their red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft and easy to use and store and even travel with. I'm a true fan of these items and more, like their glow serum. So I'm excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there. Or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 for 15% off. HigherDose.com. This podcast is sponsored by The Collective ATX. If you're looking for the best in hair extensions, it's The Collective ATX. They do mine, and I won't go anywhere else. I've tried them all over the years, and finally, I've found what makes my real hair stronger and fuller, and even works with my natural curl. They keep all their extensions in-house, so there's no wait, and they specialize in no damage to your natural hair like traditional hair extension methods. Plus, they're pros at color and covering gray. I have literally never in my life been happier with my color. They were named a top 200 salon by Salon Today in 2023. They've changed my hair journey. Let them change yours. The Collective ATX, link is in the show notes. Right now. I love that. And I find it really interesting. You said it in this conversation, and I saw it on your social media and your website, is that you call it an art. And I think that surprised me just a little bit. I think that expected more like techniques, which it has techniques, but why do you call it an art?
Well, to me, I do my art as my career now. So it's the art of being unmessable with. And I think it's a beautiful masterpiece, and it never really has an end to it. So there's always something you could be creating. And it really is about empowering people to like take on this art. If you take on being a painter, if you take on being a singer, if you take on being any kind of artist, it's a world. It's not a strategy. It's a world. And that's really how I view this. There's the world of being unmessable with, and then there's the world of being messable with. And we all know what it feels like and looks like to live in the world of being messable with, everybody. And I coach people that are really successful and they still get messable with. So this is not something to get over. This is something to catch and shift from the world of reaction to the world of creation, just quicker and quicker and quicker. And the more muscle you have at it, then there are times where it seems like you don't even get hooked because you don't, because you've kind of knocked that one out, no longer hooks you.
Yeah. What are your daily practices like? What are your daily practices like?
I have a lot of daily practices. One is I live by my calendar, and I use my calendar as a canvas, right? So I use it to create my life. So my and I have a whole workshop on calendars, I'll tell you, because I feel like it's so underused for people. People view their calendar as like just a bunch of stuff to do, and now they got to avoid the domination of their calendar or something. I use it as my masterpiece. So I design my days with what I want in my day. So I have recharge time at least 2 or 3 times in every day where because I'm on Zoom all day long working with people, right? Designing things. So I take recharge time. And during that time, I'll either go outside, I'll take a walk, I'll do some yoga, I'll maybe do a 6-minute meditation. Doesn't have to be a long time. I do a 6-minute meditation, resets my whole nervous system in that moment. I'll have a cup of coffee. Maybe I'll watch the news. I know that sounds crazy. That doesn't make any sense that would recharge me, but it does. For some reason, I turn my brain off when the news is on because it's just the same thing over and over again. So I have recharge time that I build into my day every day. I have time with my cats every day because it's been proven when you pet an animal, your blood pressure goes down, your nervous system settles. So I build these things into my day in addition to what I'm doing to make a difference with the people that I'm working with. And for sure, walking is a big part of my life. I love to walk. Half my social media videos are me walking down the street talking about something, because when I live in New York and Paris, and they're both very, very big walking cities. So walking is very important to me. And then time with my husband. And I schedule everything. I schedule my showers. I schedule sexy time with my husband. It's called an in-house, and I invite him on the calendar and he'll know, oh, okay, I guess that's what I have to look forward to tonight. I schedule calling my parents, even though it's not like I'm going to forget to call my parents. If I don't have it there, life happens. I want to be the designer of my life. I don't want the circumstances to be the designer of my life. So I have everything in reality, and it's all by design. So I'm the creator of all of it. It's very empowering.
And do you have flexibility within that? Like, what if something comes up? How do you allow yourself that flexibility?
Well, if you look on any calendar, like, have you ever used a Google Calendar or?
Oh yeah, all of them.
They're just blocks. You can move them. So it's completely flexible. It's like I am the controller. I am the author, so I get to move the stuff. But here's the one rule that I kind of don't violate is I will move it before. If I move it after, to me, that's now I have a lie on my calendar, and I don't want to have a lie in my life. So if I say, go take a walk at 9 a.m. and it's now 11 a.m. and I didn't do that thing, I'm now living with a lie.
Yeah.
So I know before.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because if I have it on my calendar and I know, and I can see something's happening, like I'm dealing with the doctors for my mom or whatever, and I'm not going to end up taking that walk, I will take the walk and I will move that block to another time when I'm going to take that walk, or I'll delete it, depending on what it is. And then I'm still in control, like shower. Okay, I'm not going to be taking a shower because I just had like 3 emergency phone calls. Okay, I'll just stick my head under the shower. That'll look like I took a shower. Okay, it's like whatever. That takes 3
That
minutes.
counts? That counts?
It counts it counts for
Cool.
looking good. It doesn't count for cleaning your body, but it definitely counts for Zoom. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to wear pants on Zoom, so I'm wearing pants on.
Yeah. Okay, I was going to ask, but yeah, it doesn't really matter, though. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You can have them on or not.
Exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up because I really wanted to talk to you about your word. And I love that I read on your website, you have abracadabra tattooed on you. And that means, what does it mean again? Your word?
With my word, I create.
Oof,
So
I
in
love
ancient
it.
Hebrew and ancient Aramaic, that's the origin of that word. It's I create as I speak. And that's
Cool.
part of the whole calendar thing. It's like I'm creating as I'm speaking into existence my life.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't see it that way at all. Myself maybe included. Like I think that I see that as something to get bogged down by rather than embracing and the creation mode of it, which is a very cool way to see it. But let's talk about your word, because I love that little bit about keeping your word to yourself, even on your calendar. And I'm always searching for ways that perhaps I'm not being honest, because I am like you. I work to be impeccable with my word, but the power of it to yourself. And I saw somewhere you were talking about what you're saying to yourself and how people get tripped up by that. So I wanted you to talk about that, but I also wanted to add that that is something that I've talked about a lot and that I watch with myself, because I think that, when you meet somebody and you're like, I don't trust them. Mm-hmm. I think that their word, it may not be good to other people, sure, or maybe they're decent to other people, but if they're not being honest with the things they say even to themselves, then they know that they're not to be trusted, and they're just putting out an energy of that. And I think if you get impeccable with your word to yourself, you're going to put out an energy where other people just know they can trust you. It's like it's the opposite of that feeling. And I just thought, let's talk about how you view your word. And I love that aspect of your work.
It's the core, it's the heart of being unmessable with, is having your word be unmessable with. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to keep your promises, but you can always honor, there's that word again, you can always honor your word. And how you do that is if you see you're going to be breaking a promise. Like I had an appointment, a cocktail party to go to the night that my mother ended up in the hospital with emergency surgery not long ago, right? So that was at 9 a.m. She was in the hospital. I immediately got in touch with the people from the party saying, I'm not going to be able to be there. I want to let you know as soon as possible, because I was counted on to bring something to the thing. The soonest possible moment that you see you're not going to be able to keep your word about something, if you get in communication with whoever that's going to impact, that's what it looks like to honor your word and deal with the impact of it. Including if it's I'm going to send them a delivery of cookies because I said I'd make cookies and I don't want them to have to deal with, whatever it is, dealing with the impact of that. I mean, I have a little bit better than a cookie example. I was married before I'm married to my husband. Now we're together 30 years this month. And my ex-husband, I promised I would be married to him for 5 years. I know it sounds weird, but again, it was all about word. I said, I'm giving you my word. I will be married to you for 5 years, and then we'll reevaluate. Now, at some point during the marriage, I said, I'm not going to keep my word here. Doesn't matter what the reason was, but you can imagine something happened, and I was just like, I'm not going to trap myself in this marriage for 5 years because I said so. So I'm going to revoke my word, which is something you can do with words, right? But there's an impact on him. So I said to him, I know I said that I would be married to you for 5 years. I am taking that promise back. And I want to know what you need so that you are whole and complete in our relationship. And he said, reimburse me for the honeymoon. I said, no problem. I wrote him the check and that was it. And it was done. So that's what the cost was, or the impact for him was to get reimbursed, which kind of gives you an indication of why I didn't stay married. story. I think
Yeah,
just that
right,
story
right.
alone is sort of an indicator, but in any case,
Yeah.
it was clean because I dealt with my word like a woman of my word. Like, I'm going to deal with the impact on you, including if it costs me money.
Do you still constantly stay on top of that, even just with yourself and the
I
things you
do.
say to yourself, thoughts?
It's the biggest thing that people have an issue with in terms of what messes with them, because they're pretty most people that I deal with, at least, are pretty reliable if they give you a promise. Like, they're like, if I promise to meet you at 12 o'clock, like, it's going to happen. But when you promise something to yourself, you don't relate to it as a promise. You just relate to it as something you said, like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. But it's like, you don't relate to it like a sacred vow, like honoring your word. I treat everything as like my sacred vow to life, to myself, because I'm the creator, right? So if I am not going to do whatever it is that I created that I was going to do, I deal with it. I don't wait till it's over and be like, whatever, and now here's my reason why I didn't do it. Because you can always come up with a reason to not do something. It's like, well, I didn't sleep well, so I'm not going to, I deal with it ahead of time so that I'm always having my life be like this versus like this.
What does that mean
It means
exactly?
I'm
This versus
creating it versus at the effect of it.
it's coming at me. Okay.
Yep. And stuff comes
But
at me, but I'm creating
yeah.
how I deal with it.
But what about little things like,
Yeah, sure.
I'm not going to have dessert tonight, And then do you? I mean, do you shift gears? Do you honor your word?
I'll give you the what transformed this for me. Okay. So when I used to lead transformative workshops for many years, I had a coach, and I still have many coaches, but I had this coach, and I had 3 promises that I would make every time I led. This is for like 25 years now. I've had these 3 promises. And one of the promises is that I will never make anything or anyone wrong, including myself. Like, that's just a promise I created. I love it. It keeps me in the world of creation instead of reaction. And it's a really great promise. So I would debrief with him after every course, and I'd say, well, I broke that promise. I made myself wrong because I went over my timeline and da-da-da-da-da. I would never make the participants wrong. Like, for some reason, that was like a violation of something. But like, my making myself wrong seemed like, whatever. It's just me, who's going to know? And I justified it. So after a couple of courses of debriefing and having broken that promise, he said to me, well, clearly your word doesn't mean anything to you. Okay, now I am like, excuse me? What do
Hitting you where it hurts.
Yeah, I know, really. I was like, are you joking me? I mean, I have abracadabra, my arm, word is everything. Right. And he said to me, and this kind of handled the whole thing for me. Okay, well, what's something you would never do? Like something that's so horrific that there's no way you would do it under any circumstance. And I had to really think, Amy, because I have kids, and if somebody came after, like, I would like kill somebody. I would do some horrible things if they were like after my children or something, like I could imagine circumstances.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking and thinking and thinking. And then I go, okay, I would never stab a baby in the face. Like, I would never do that. There's
great. No,
right?
That's a good one. I would not. I would not stab a baby in the face. Yeah.
I don't care what they threatened me with. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. That would just be such a violation of every ounce. So he goes, okay. So when breaking that promise occurs for you, like stabbing a baby in the face, you'll stop breaking it. And that was pretty much it. I was like, and that handled it. So
how often do you think about you wouldn't stab a baby in the face? How often does that come up in your mind?
Only when I'm sharing with somebody what transformed.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if like you have moments of a decision and then you think, oh, I wouldn't stab a baby in the face. I'm not going to do.
Well, now the trick is to have the thing like eating dessert, if that's the thing that you have a word not to do. The trick is to have that just show up for you as abhorrent, as something that's so horrible you wouldn't do it, because you connect it somehow. And it could be the stabbing a baby in the face. For me, it's more like with well-being stuff. I do stuff because I create a positive occurring rather than a negative occurring to avoid. I create like why I'm doing it. is to nurture my well-being or to be here when I'm a grandparent or when, because I have like plaque on my heart and whatever. So, I don't eat, or mangoes. I'm allergic to mangoes. I love mangoes, but I'm allergic to it. So I don't eat that because I'm allergic to it and there's an impact on me. So if you can create for yourself, not that you're allergic to dessert, but like, what is the impact on you? Not of eating dessert, of violating your word to yourself. Because that's the thing. If you can actually have that be like every time you break your promise to yourself or to other people without getting ahead of it and dealing with the consequence, like honoring your word, every time you dishonor your word, you're a smaller person. You have a less opportunity to make the difference you want to make in the world because you're smaller. You're living in a world of reasons and justification. You're ordinary.
Even when it's those little ones we perceive as little. Are there any little ones? I don't know.
I would say make it everything matter. So if you say you're going to take the garbage out at 7:00, do it at 7, not 7:01. If you say you're going to do 100 sit-ups, do 100, not 99. Because it's the minute you do one less, it's a slippery slope. And you just start justifying. Well, I did enough. I did. Yeah, but you didn't do your word. So if it's your word, it's not what you give your word to. I think this is the best way to describe it, right? Because it's a very good question. I mean, what you're asking is really what messes with most people. People usually associate their word with what they give it to. You can always come up with reasons and justifications to not do or do whatever the thing is. But if you deal with it as, no, it's my word is the point. It doesn't matter if it's the garbage or cheating on your husband or whatever it is. It's that, no, I am my word. I am a woman of my word, not my feelings, not my bank account, not my moods, not my past, not my stomach, but not my cravings. I am a woman of my word. Now, not everybody has a word not to have dessert or whatever all those kind of things are. So if you create it as a word, then you deal with it with honor with your word. You're going to get so much power in your life because it's the same mode. I want to double my business. I want to start this new company.
Oh, I'm not the power.
It's the same paintbrush is word. And people think, well, I can double my business without, with cheating on my wife and not keeping that promise. I promise you, the degradation of the power is in your word. And then you don't trust yourself. So you talk about trust. That's the self-doubt because you've said things and not done them 100 times. And then when you say something, it's like, yeah, we'll see if it happens. So you can't even trust yourself. And that's the biggest impact of not doing what you say is not having a solid relationship to yourself.
I love all that. And then, you kind of touched on the payoff is you have so much more power in the things that you do say. That's so cool, right?
You don't have to second guess yourself. Why would you second guess yourself if you say X and X happens? You say X and X happens, or you say X and then you see it's not going to happen. And then you get in communication with whoever you said X to. And you say, listen, I know I said X, but now it's Y. Is there anything you need from me to make up for the damage? And you deal with it like that. My grandfather, who died at 105, he would have been like 122 now. An incredible man. He had power with his word. He was his word. There was no him and his word. It was just word. That's who he was. He never needed a contract. He was like, he was just like, shake your hand. That's it. And he said at his 100th birthday party, which I threw for him with his 100 closest relatives and friends, whatever, he said, I'll see you at my 105th with the scotch, And I heard that like, oh, that's his word. So now he's going to live till 105 because he says things and they happen, right? And right around 104, we had like a small birthday party for him with just the immediate family. And I said, Grandpa, I will throw you a 105th birthday party, but you need to give me your word that you will be alive because I don't want to book a place and invite people and then have to cancel it because you die. Okay, so you need to give me your word. And he laughed, right? And he goes, okay, you have my word. And a few months later, he got sick and he stopped eating. And my aunt and uncle who lived with him were like, you better come out and, say your goodbye. I was like, what are you talking about? Say your goodbye. He said 105. He's not 105. And I went out to see him and he hadn't eaten for like a week. And if you've ever seen a 104-year-old who hadn't eaten for a week, I mean, he looked like he was dead already, And in that moment, it was so hard for me to see because he was like this pillar of strength. And I said to him, okay, I'm keeping you to this promise for me, not you. So I'm releasing you from your promise. And now you have a choice and it's going to go how you say, but you need to say, because if you don't, it's an integrity issue for you because it's going to go how you say. So all of a sudden he looks at this egg that was next to him and he looks at me, he looks at the egg and I start feeding him the egg. He eats the whole egg. He starts eating again. Within 1 week, hospice had left. We were at his favorite Italian restaurant for dinner the next week in New Jersey. And we celebrated I could cry, his 105th birthday, with his closest family and friends. And it was all a function of his word. And then a couple months later, he was sitting in his favorite chair and he passed away. And he said he was going to die in that chair. He said it like 5 times. I heard him say that. And he did.
Gosh.
And that's what I train people in. Having the kind of power to say 105 and have it happen, to say double my business and have it happen, to say intimacy in my marriage and have it happen. That's what I'm committed to, is that people have that kind of power.
Oh, that was a great story. Wow. And he sounds like a real character.
He was.
I love your grandpa.
He had a pickle company back in Sydney, Papa Sydney.
Stop.
Yes. Why?
Sydney. S-I-D?
Yes.
S-I-D-N-E-Y? Well, that's my mother's name. She's passed away. And it's also my daughter's name. Yes. So
that's a powerful name, Papa Sydney.
It is. Oh, that makes it extra special. I feel it in my heart in the best way. So, okay. I want to ask you one other thing that was kind of on my mind. Sure. I like to not judge, right? I kind of pride myself on constantly catching myself if I'm judging. And so I had something come up and I was like, oh my God, I'm totally judging people. And here's why. And I want to know your take on it.
Sure.
In the spiritual community, I've got a lot of people around Austin and stuff that are, in the spiritual community. And there seems to be I don't know if it's a trend, but it's something that people say. And they say, oh, I'm so sensitive to energy, and they'll talk about how sensitive they are to other energies, or they can't be around certain things. And it totally annoys me. And I realized, like, one of the things I thought about years ago, and this kind of goes with being unmessable with, is I wanted to be so strong in my vibe and my presence and like who I am showing up as that all these other energies, like, sure, there's situations you want to not be around or people that, but overall, you live in New York, for God's sake. You're encountering energies all over the place, right? And so anyway, I've noticed I'm really judgmental when people say that because I feel like it's giving away their power. It's selling themselves short. It's making the statement that I can't. It's almost reactionary. Would you say
it is? Maybe? It's 100%. I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. When I have clients that are like, well, I just can't be around those people. They're toxic. I say, no.
There you go.
What I want to develop with you is you could be with anyone at any time under any circumstance and still fulfill your vision. That's what being unmessable with is. It isn't about picking and choosing. I mean, what, really, you're going to eliminate the planet? I mean, that's insane. I have a whole other story, but I know we're running out of time, so I don't want to go into it about my father-in-law.
Oh, go ahead. We're all right. Go ahead.
Well, my father-in-law was toxic. I mean, everybody agreed. They called him Little Napoleon. This was his nickname, like by people that, not me. I mean, this is like other people. But I was always like, well, I can get along with anyone. I'm unmessable with. I can do it. And I could not get along with this man. Like, no matter what I tried, no matter what I was like, oh my God, this guy, there's maybe 2 people in the world that I'm messable with. It's Hitler and my father-in-law. Like that's how for me. It was like horrible. And I had a real vision to have a great relationship with him and be a great daughter-in-law, but I was ineffective at it, right? So flash forward, I'm standing in the back of a transformative workshop once again, and somebody shared something, and I'm getting present to like how much I love my life and how I have like this life of my dreams. And mostly it's because of my husband, Michael, who his whole life is about making sure that I have the life of my dreams. I mean, he, when I used to lead, he would take the dry cleaning, take the kids to Costco. He'd make sure I have everything, pick me up at the end of the night to make sure. I mean, his whole life is about making sure the people he loves can fulfill their vision, right? So now all of a sudden, it occurs to me that Tommy, his father, was his father. And it was like this revelation or something. I was like, Tommy is Michael's father. I know this sounds insane because obviously he's his father. He's my father-in-law. But I was like, that means that if Michael is the source of my great life, you could say through logic that Tommy is the source of my great life. And now I'm weeping in the back of the room at the impact of, for 10 years, I was at like a Cold War with this guy, right? And Michael hardly spoke to him, and he didn't even meet my youngest child. I mean, that's how bad it was, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, oh, peace on the planet, except for my father-in-law who should rot and die in hell. I mean, it was so inauthentic. But to me, it was totally justified. I was like, well, he's toxic. I don't want him around my kids, blah, 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 right? So then I'm crying, and the girl who's leading the workshop comes to the back of the room. She's like, why are you crying? And I said, well, and I told her what I told you. She goes, well, you have to call him like right away. And I go, no, you don't understand. He hates me. I hate him. He hates me. We had a conversation where we agreed that we hate each other and we're just going to tolerate. I mean, it's like, can you imagine me having a conversation with somebody? We just hate each other. I mean, it's absurd. So then she goes, well, you're just a chicken. She used a different word, but I'm keeping it clean. So I was like,
sure.
I was like, really? I am not a chicken. Look at all these things I've done, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, okay, it's Father's Day. It was actually Father's Day.
Are you kidding me?
You can't write this stuff. So I run out of the room and I don't have his number. So I call my husband. I'm like, I need your father's number. He's like, why? And I tell him everything I shared with you. And he goes, listen, don't get me involved in your breakthroughs. Okay. I don't want to be involved in this. And I said, just give me the number. So I call him and I'm shaking. I'm so afraid. Right. And he answers the phone. He's like, hello. Like, this is how he sounds in my story about him, right? I go, hi, Tommy, it's Joss. And he goes, who? And I'm like, see, he doesn't even know my reaction, right? And I go,
wow.
No. I'm going to go back to what I'm creating. And I said, well, I'm calling you for a few reasons. Do you have a few minutes? He goes, is everybody okay? I go, yeah, everybody's fine. Because I haven't called him in like 5 years. Like, you would think something happened to somebody, right? I go, everybody's fine. He goes, well, then why are you calling? And now I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like chickening out. I go, well, one reason is to wish you a happy Father's Day, which was so ridiculous because like I hadn't spoken to him. And, he's like, well, what's the other reason? So I said, all right, I'm just going to man up. I'm just going to cowboy up here. And I said, I'm calling to apologize. And he goes, what for? I'm listening. I said, I'm calling to apologize for being a nasty, stingy, judgmental daughter-in-law for the last decade. And it's cost you your relationship with your grandchildren. You don't even know them. It's cost us our family. And I did that. And I want you to know it's over. It ends now. And what you can count on from me is being a loving and appreciative daughter-in-law, no matter what. And I have to thank you for giving me the life of my dreams, because Michael is the source of that. And you trained him to be a man. You trained him to be a human being. You are the reason he got sober, 30 whatever years ago. You gave him a career. And I said, and I have been dishonoring that for a decade. Since silence. And I'm like, hello? He goes, nobody ever called me a good father. He said, I thought Michael turned out good by mistake. And I said, no, you're every reason why Michael is, because Michael has a brother who's still in and out of drugs and jail. And so, as a father, you blame yourself. And I said, you're the whole reason why Michael is the way he is. And then he starts sharing with me. Amy, I was like, who is this person?
Oh my
he went
God.
from little Napoleon to like this guy. I know. And he's like, I always thought I was a bad father. So now I work with kids that get good grades and I take them up in my airplane and I teach them how to fly if they get A's. And I'm going, you have an airplane? Like, I don't even know this man.
You didn't even know he had an
I,
airplane.
no, I had no idea who this guy is. He's like, in my story, he's like Grizzly Adams with a rifle, going to shoot people if they come near his house, but he's like this great guy. So then I said to him at the end of the call, if you could have anything, what would you want? He goes, I want a relationship with my son. I don't know why he doesn't call me. I said, well, I do, and I'll handle that. And he goes, it's impossible. I said, if you and I could have this conversation, anything is possible. And I did the work to restore the relationship with the kids, with Michael. We became so close. We would IM each other. We spoke every week. And then when his wife died of a brain tumor, she died in my arms while he was holding my hand and gave me the kind of hug where they don't let go. And that never, ever would have happened. And then a couple years later, he got remarried, and Michael was his best man. And we were all at the wedding. We spent holidays together. And then a few years after that, we got the phone call that he died in a plane crash. And in that moment, after the grief, it was clean because he knew how much we loved him. We knew how much he loved us. And that took 3 seconds of courage to give up my reaction, my judgment, and create what kind of daughter-in-law I was going to be. Because I could be a loving and appreciative daughter-in-law no matter what he does. It has nothing to do with him. I have a say over who I be.
Right.
So there are no toxic people. There are only toxic stories, judgments. And wouldn't it be more interesting to develop yourself to be able to be with anybody than have to eliminate people from your life because of their energy?
There you go. That right there. Let's mic drop that. Let's throw our mics on the ground.
Yeah,
that
I don't have one, but
thank you for sharing that story. That is really powerful. So powerful.
Thanks for giving me the time to do it. It
made me cry.
It makes me cry
it was,
too,
It was really, really powerful. I mean, that's right. We can do it. And life presented you with a real challenge. It was like, let's see if she means what she says, And you did. You rose to the occasion. It took a minute, but you did.
It took 10 years, 10,000 minutes. But listen, you can't see something until you see it. And I thank God for that workshop, because this is what the power of coaching is. A coach can see what you can't see. And I'm a great coach. I'm a master coach, but I can't see what I can't see. So I have coaches that can see what I can't see, so I can rise to the next level and the next level in whatever areas of life that matter to me. So I just find it to be so critical to not be trying to figure stuff out in your own head.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's incredible. And you know what? You really can't see what you can't see. I was talking with my accountability partner yesterday, and she is a, like, her, and she's like a badass, right? Runs a company, and totally amazing woman in her 50s. And she's talking about the things she's doing. But then she started talking about some limiting beliefs. And she said, as she started talking to him, talking about them, she was wearing a turtleneck, and she started pulling it up over her mouth like this while she's talking. And I was like, what are you doing right now? I was like, look at what you're physically doing. She was like, oh my God, I am. She didn't even have an awareness that she was really like physically retracting and literally hiding. Wow. And sometimes it just takes that. I know, it was wild, but it takes that outside source, sometimes to see the things that we can't see, and see when we're, giving away our power, for instance, like by saying that person's toxic, and like, oh, but wait, I have control. I'm taking back that control. And that's that unmessable with.
Yeah, no, I know you're going to be my spokesperson for unmessable with at this point. But you should, all those energy people telling you they can't whatever about the energy, you should start creating. This vision is like, well, for me, my energy envelops the room, so I'm not worried about anybody else's energy. I'm going to create that they get enveloped in my energy.
Well, that's the thing too, right? What are they saying? What are you putting out there? You're saying, I'm affected by this. You're saying, this is making me whatever, like, say a new thing.
Yeah,
Get your
and
word out there.
do something different. It's like saying, well, I can't lift 5 pounds. Okay, well then start with 1 pound, but like start lifting so that it's not like
Yeah,
you're never going to carry a grocery bag again. I mean, it's like they're saying, it's the lazy. That's
right.
how I mean, that's like a little crude, but I'd be like, you're just lazy. You don't want to do the work to be developed to be able to be with those kind of people. There's going to be people like
Right.
that forever in your life. I used to tell that to my kids when they were like, I don't like this teacher and da da da. I was like, well, you better learn how to have a great relationship with that teacher because you're going to have teachers you don't like for the rest of your life. I promise. So you're going to
Mhm.
either be messable with and change classes, or you're going to develop the ability to be with anyone and create results.
And create results. That's the creation. Well, what did we miss today? Was there anything that we didn't get to that you really wanted to address or talk about, or anything that maybe you want to elaborate on or reiterate?
I mean, we hit on so much. I can't even imagine. I
I'm
just want
so
to.
glad.
I know it's such a great conversation. I can't wait to have you on my show, and then we'll continue it with all of everything that you're creating. But I would say I encourage people to start with something simple. Start with noticing the red flag and having a pre-created space, and it could be a promise. Like I promise to make 5 people smile, or I promise to make a difference with people, or I promise to
Mhm.
forgive someone today. It can be a very simple thing. In fact, I have a game that I give people. It's a gift. And if anybody wants to practice creation, not reacting, and actually having their life be what they create from their word, they can do this game. It's called the Promise Game. And it's free on my website. You can get it at giftfromjoss.com. And it's simple. And you'll get emails for 5 days, and you'll start to practice the muscle of creation, because that's the weak muscle. People are good at reacting, but creation is like where the magic is. That's where,
Yes.
even the company that you're starting, that's in the space of creation. You don't know what you're doing. That's exhilarating. Once you build it, it'll become something to manage, and then you'll be reacting. So it's like, how do you keep that space of creation even after the honeymoon stage of a relationship or a honeymoon stage of a creation like a company? And that's
Mhm.
really what I want for people. I want people to be able to have magic.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I love magic, and I love your tattoo and all of it. Thank you. You know what? There was one last thing I wanted to ask you. I meant
Absolutely.
to end on that, but I wanted to ask you one more thing. Um, I have heard through one of your clients actually that you are really great at leading groups of people, and you spoke about that. What do you tell somebody who's looking to harness like that kind of leadership, and what makes you really great at that?
Well, I've done it for 35 years. So it's, part of it is
Practice.
practice, obviously,
Yeah.
like anything, practice.
Yeah.
And I work with people to coach them on their, I don't know if you're talking about Molly, but
I am.
yes,
Yes.
exactly. So she used to be very, very nervous about speaking in front of people. And I worked with her to create not only what she's speaking about, but where she's coming from, and practicing and taking out what didn't work. I do a whole speaker's training for people because that is
Wow.
something that people want a lot, and they get stopped. I was just talking to somebody on my podcast who wants to do a TED talk, but has all these considerations and fears and all this stuff. And I worked with her in 10 minutes, and it was like, oh my God, now I can see 10 actions I could take right now. So it's mostly people are stopped by something that messes with them, whether it's self-doubt or imposter
Mhm.
syndrome or a fear of tech. Like I was invited to do a TED talk for 5 years. I said no because I didn't know how to do a PowerPoint. And I was like, I don't want to have to deal with the PowerPoint. Like how absurd is that? Meanwhile, you're robbing people of the message. So when I finally said yes, somebody offered to do the PowerPoint. You build it, they will come. You commit, and the universe will give you all the resources to accomplish your dream. But it does have to do with practice and focus. So if what you're focused on when you're speaking with people is you and how you're doing, and do I sound stupid, it's a messable with moment waiting to happen. If what you're focused on when you're speaking with a group of people, first of all, there's no such thing as a group of people. There's people. So you're speaking to one person, and then you're speaking to this person, and then you're speaking to that. But group is conceptual, and that messes with people because they think it's like this crowd or this, gang of people. No, you just look at one person and talk to them and go to make a difference with that person. And then you look at the next person. And, like when we were in Vegas together and I looked at you at one point, and, you're looking looking back at me, and then I look at someone else and I am talking to them, because you're only ever talking to a person. You can't talk to people. It's not real.
Yeah, it's not. And I have a radio background, and that's exactly what they say in radio too. Like, you're just talking to one person, just relax. So
yeah, and you can't
well,
even
you
see
mentioned
them. Yeah.
and you can't see them. It's like you're really just standing there talking to a microphone. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you. This was incredible. And you have a lot of free offerings. I want to put them, you had a few other gifts, I believe, on your website. So I will put that in the show notes so people can access those. And
Perfect.
thank you. I'm very curious about it. I want to do it. And then how else can someone find you and perhaps work with you? Because you have a ton of free programs, group programs, things like that, or one-on-one
Yeah,
coaching.
I've got stuff for everybody. So I've got group programs, I've got one-on-one, I've got a entrepreneur mastery program, I've got a coach's training program. So I've got tons of stuff. If you go to my website, which is beunmessablewith.com, you will see a plethora of resources, including a ton of free stuff, because I want everybody to have access to this. You know what I mean? And I take on very few one-on-one clients. But if somebody wants to work with me one-on-one and it makes sense, then, it's obviously the highest level that you can work with me. But everything else is just as impactful in a different way.
Beautiful. Well, all that will be in the show notes, and and all your Instagram, all your handles and everything like that, and your LinkedIn. So I just want to say a huge thank you. That was really incredible. I laughed, I cried.
Thank you
Great.
so much for the opportunity. When we met, I was like, oh, I would definitely want to be on your show. I just wanted to hang out with you guys. You're like the cool people.
Yay. Same. We wanted to hang out with you. I was like, what a powerhouse, badass. Cool. I think that's what I said to Justin. I think I was like, she's cool. And so anyway, you know what? Your word just comes across. Your vibe comes across. You are that person that you say you are. And that's so beautiful and powerful to witness and to be inspired by. So thank you so much. Everyone go check out Josselyne. Thank you.
And
everyone,
thank you for everything you're doing in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And thank you, everybody who showed up today, because every time you show up, you are showing up for yourself, making a difference, showing yourself, hey, I show up, right? I'm here to level up. I'm here to figure out my next best version, whatever that looks like. So that is badass. Way to go. Congratulations. Another thing to just like pat yourself on the back about today. So I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Sign up for the newsletter, amyedwards.info, amyedwards.com. It's all there, my courses, everything, and links to all the other shows. So thank you so much for being here. Till next time.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.